So if you've ever tried to create content before, or if you're creating content, you probably know how important it is to learn how to talk to the camera. And you probably also know how difficult it is to learn how to talk to the camera, since it's something that feels really, really unnatural, especially if you're just starting out and if it's the first time for you doing it. Now, in today's video, I want to give you 8 practical tips that you can apply today to start improving immediately your delivery and how you talk to the camera. Now, who am I to talk about this? I'm Alessio, and together with my business partner Brian, we created an Instagram page 1 year ago in which we create educational content. So we talk to the camera on a daily basis and we teach people how to grow their personal brand, especially on Instagram, and now we're also starting to do this on YouTube as well. And so by the time I'm recording this video, we probably uploaded something like 450, 500 talking head videos, and so we know a thing or two about talking to the camera. And even though we are still improving day by day, and especially with longer form videos, we are still learning how to do it properly. We got to the point of having a pretty good delivery, and so today I want to teach you exactly how to do that with really practical tips that you can apply immediately. So I want to start off by mentioning that there are different levels of difficulty that you can start from when you're just learning how to talk to a camera. And the first thing that I would start with is short form content, especially short form content in which you also have a script that you're reading directly. Now, this is incredibly important. A lot of people, especially when starting out with content, try to memorize their scripts or maybe to just read one sentence of the script and then say it to the camera out loud. But this is incredibly difficult, and not only that, it makes your delivery look really, really weird. So what I would highly suggest is that you get a teleprompter. This is something that you can get for really cheap on Amazon, for example, and you start by practicing scripts that you already wrote down. Now, this is the first level of difficulty. Now, all the tips that I will give you later on in the video apply to whatever level of difficulty that you decide to start with. Now, the second level is doing talking head videos, but long form. So videos, for example, for YouTube that might be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but in which you have some kind of presentation that you can use. So for example, maybe you have some slides, or maybe you have some kind of concept map, and you just follow some specific steps from there. Now the last level, which is for example what I'm doing right now, it's talking to the camera while just having some basic bullet points in your mind, or something that you can just read out of, and then just improvise your entire speech. Now, that is the part that requires the most practice, and that is the part that I'm still learning to this day, because we basically just started with our YouTube channel. So I would highly suggest that you follow the order of these 3 levels of difficulty. So especially if you're just starting out, start with just short form videos in which you have a script that you're just reading out loud, because this way you can focus much more on your delivery, and then later on you can learn how to improvise and how to create an entire speech from scratch. Now, with that being said, I will start immediately with tip number 1. And this goes especially for all of you that are non-native English speakers. Now, this is incredibly important because I'm also not a native English speaker. I'm actually Italian. I don't know if you can hear it from the accent. I hope not that much, because I worked on my pronunciation a lot. And so even though I still might have a little bit of an inflection in my accent from my Italian origins, I know how to pronounce words in a very clear way, and that is the most important part. You don't need to build a perfect accent, for example, but at least you need to be able to pronounce words correctly. And so my suggestion for this, and the most important tip that I can give you, is try and exaggerate your mouth movements, okay? Focus on the pronunciation. This is the first step, especially again if English is not your first language, because the first and most important thing is you have to make sure that people understand what you're saying in the first place, okay? So practice this way. I'd say that what helped me the most was literally trying this out loud and exaggerating my mouth movements, reading out the script very, very slow, and then slowly building up the speed so that I was still able to pronounce all the words correctly. Now, the second tip, and this is fundamental as well, it's the pacing at which you're reading your script, or you're giving your speech, of course. Now, this is incredibly important because you want to use the pacing or the speed at which you're giving your speech in a very conscious way. So you don't want to go too fast, you don't want to go too slow, or at least you want to use your speed as a tool. So for example, in short form content, you have to make sure to go at a pretty fast pace because people have short attention spans. You need to be able to come across as really effective and really straight to the point. And so it's incredibly important that you don't go too slow. But at the same time, in general, you can also leverage this as a tool. So for example, I could speak really fast and prove to you that I know exactly what I'm talking about and look really competent. Or I can talk slowly and put way more attention and importance on what I'm saying. So understand how the pacing of your speech influences how people perceive it. And again, make sure with long form content you can play with it a little bit more, but especially with short form content, make sure that you're not going too slow because that's, I'm telling you, that's one of the killers that gets you to lose people's attention and makes them scroll away from your videos. Now, tip number 2 has to do with poses. And this is incredibly important because as you can see live from this speech right here, posing allows you to process, allows the person who's watching to process what you just said. Now, this is incredibly important, but you also need to keep in mind again that it always also depends on the format that you're using. So for example, in short form content, you're playing very little with poses usually because you cut out empty spaces and dead moments in your speech to make sure that the video is fast paced because you have very little time and you have especially very little time to keep people's attention throughout your entire video. So you can't really afford really long poses that you can use and play with more in long form content. But it's still an incredibly important tool that you need to keep in mind whenever you're talking to the camera. Now, tip number 4, and this, I'm telling you, this can literally be what completely changes your videos. It's put energy in what you're doing, in what you're saying. Exaggerate things. The person on the other side of the screen needs to be able to perceive and to feel your energy in what you're saying. So you need to be expressive. You need to exaggerate your face expression, your body language, all of this, because most times, especially since you're not comfortable with something like this, you will tend to close up and to become more neutral. But I will show you an example live. I can express myself exactly like I'm doing right now, or I could continue the entire video like this. So, very static, no expressions, keeping my face totally neutral. You can feel how much difference there is in this, okay? It's two completely different words, so you have to focus on putting some emphasis into whatever you're saying, okay? Now, tip number 5 is another mind switch that you can do that will help you tremendously in being able to talk to the camera more confidently. And even though it might be difficult at the beginning, as you practice it more and more, it will become more natural. And it's this. Imagine that you're talking to a person, because you literally are. I know that you have to play a little bit with your imagination, because you're looking at a camera. This is exactly what I'm doing right now, okay? But I'm imagining you on the other side of the screen, and I'm looking straight through the lens of my camera, thinking of looking into your eyes, okay? So also keeping the eye contact. Imagine that you're talking to someone and you have to keep the eye contact. You have to look straight through the lens of your camera and think that you're talking to another person on the other side of the screen. And this is incredibly important. So imagine having a person in front of you that you're talking to, because that's literally what's happening. Even though, again, it feels really weird because you have a camera, and so it's the most unnatural thing in the world. But that's the reason why you need to practice this a lot. And now the tip number 6 that I can give you, and this is also incredibly important, is get energized before doing this. Because this is incredibly important. When you're just starting out, again, you will probably be really stiff and really close to the camera because you're not used to doing this. So try to put yourself in a good mood, okay? Try to have some energy before you even start to record your video. So play some music, play something that you like, do some push-ups, do some stretching, make sure that you feel comfortable, that you like the clothes that you're wearing, that you look good, that you feel good, that you wear clothes that are comfortable also. Make sure that you're in a position in which you're also comfortable in general. So whether you're sitting or you're standing, make sure that you feel good. This is the most important tip when it comes to what you can do before actually shooting to make talking to the camera way better and way easier. Now, tip number 7, and this is incredibly true and incredibly effective if you want to learn a style of communication, is study the people that you like. How do they communicate? Analyze all of these different things that I listed. So for example, the speed, the energy that they put in their speech, the poses, all of these different elements that play into communication and that play into having a speech that's really effective and powerful, that gets through the camera? How do the creators that you really like and the people that you follow, that you admire and that you look up to, how do they play with these elements? How do they talk to the camera exactly? And analyze, break down exactly what they do, try to understand every single element that takes part into their style of communication, so that you can take from all of the different people that inspire you and create your own style of communication. And now tip number 8, and I promise you, this is by far the fastest way that you can improve your communication and how you talk to the camera, and it's practice. I'm sorry to break it to you, but if you wanted just some secret tips, that's not going to work, because you also need to put in the practice. So the most important thing that you can do, and this is an exercise that you can start doing today, and I promise you, if you keep on doing it for the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, it will completely change the way that you speak, not only to the camera, but also in real life. And it's, you pull up the camera, you pull up your phone, the webcam of your laptop, it doesn't matter, whatever you're using to record, and you just every single day shoot a 5-minute video on whatever topic you want. It doesn't matter. You just improvise a speech of 5 minutes, and then you take another 5 minutes to watch it back. Now, this is also incredibly important, because a lot of people think about the concept of practice makes perfect, but they misunderstand it, because practice doesn't make perfect, okay? And the reason why I'm telling you this, and you can see it clearly from many people that surround you also, is that we've all been talking for our entire life. Yet there are some people that are incredible communicators, even if they are younger sometimes, okay? And why is that? It's because they consciously analyze what they are saying and how they are saying it. And so the simplest and most effective way that you can do exactly the same with very little time, because I'm literally telling you, it will take you 10 minutes every single day, but it can completely change your life. And so not only, again, in talking to the camera, but also in communication in your day-to-day life, in making your speech very clear and concise, in making people understand what you think and what you want to express. And so this is incredibly important. 5 minutes, you record yourself on whatever topic you want, you just improvise in front of the camera, and then another 5 minutes, you watch it back and you write down whatever you're doing wrong, or whatever you want to improve, or whatever you want to change of your communication. Okay? Don't overdo it. Don't be too harsh on yourself, of course, especially when you're just starting out. You don't want to list out 1,000 things, because otherwise you will just get demoralized. But focus on the biggest mistakes that you're making and slowly work through them. And again, practice makes perfect only if you also consciously analyze what you're saying, what you're doing, and how you're communicating. So these were the 8 tips that you can immediately apply to start having a better communication and also better talk to the camera and better communicate in your content. Again, communication is incredibly important. I'm a firm believer of this. And again, it will also influence your life and how you speak in your work environment, with your friends, with your family, with your loved ones. But also, again, whenever you're teaching something, whenever you're explaining a concept, whenever you're trying to make people understand what you feel or what you think. And so I cannot stress enough how important this is, and I really hope you will actually take action on these tips that I gave you. And of course, subscribe to the channel. Here we are going to create pretty much daily content on how to grow your personal brand and how to grow your business. And with that being said, we'll see you in the next video.